This video is sponsored by Hule. Growing up, I used to think that the human body hit its physical prime at exactly 16 years of age. Now, obviously, this is not the case. According to that shitty little Google AI feature that be lying to me half the time, most adults won't even start to reach their physical prime until they're like 10 years removed from 16, but looking back, I think I can see why I was led into believing that life was nothing but physical decline from the moment you cross the 17 mark onward. You see, in fiction targeted towards teenagers and young adults, the type of stuff that I was watching as a kid, shonen anime, superhero shows, what have you, the characters have to be mature enough to feel inspirational or cool, while also still being young enough to fit into scenarios that the audience can relate to. And so what you end up with is this age inflation where a character's actual age is sort of just arbitrarily slapped onto the character as a side note to the way that they actually act in the story. Most teenagers in these shows are functionally young adults in terms of responsibility and lifestyle. Most young adults in these shows are treated as legitimate authority figures on par with what you would expect from like a middle-aged adult IRL. And once you reach middle age as an anime, you might as well just roll some dice to see if you're gonna live or die. Because if you're not destined to end up as some wise old sage, then you are destined to end up as some young nigga's motivation and or rock bottom. And that's just simply the way the cookie crumbles in these sorts of shows. Alright, so you're probably wondering why you have spawned into a random kitchen. And well, I brought you into this kitchen because the kitchen reminds me of breakfast, and it's actually on that topic of breakfast that I would like to introduce you to the sponsor of today's video, Hule. I'm going to keep it a stack right now. I'm not a big breakfast guy in general. Like, I enjoy breakfast food, pancakes and waffles in them, but for some reason the thought of making and consuming a meal straight off the wake up has always been crazy to me. If I could be one of those dudes that just, you know, casually skip breakfast and go on about their day, I honestly would. But you see, the problem there is that if I skip breakfast, my whole entire mental capacity is shutting down like no later than 10:30 a.m. And so this, ladies and gentlemen, is where Hule comes in. Hule Black Edition is basically my hack for days where I need to be sharp, but also don't have the time nor want to cook anything on my own. It's a complete meal, not like some kind of protein shake or meal replacement. It's a full meal that's got everything I need, including 40 grams of plant-based protein, over 6 grams of fiber, and 27 essential vitamins and minerals, all in just 400 calories. Personally, I rock with the vanilla flavor, right? I guess I'm kind of a plain Jane or whatever, but basically all you have to do to make your portion of Hule is grab your shaker, fill some water into the shaker up to the fill line, scoop in some of the powder. They gave me a lot of powder in this particular package, and as you can see, I even got 2 more over there. Next, you're gonna wanna throw in some ice, screw the lid back on, give it a good shake, really mix it up. You could also do this with a blender, but I don't feel like taking out a blender right now. And yeah, boom, I have something to eat that tastes good, takes under a minute to make, and is way more affordable than eating out, starting at only $2.45 a meal. It's been clutch, especially on mornings where I, am editing, scripting, doing something that's very time consuming and don't really want to use that much time to worry about breakfast. So yeah, if you want to try it for yourself, you can get 15% off your first order when you use my code TeddyS15 at Hule.com with a minimum order value of $75. Again, that's code TeddyS15, don't forget the S, at Hule.com with a minimum order value of $75. Thank you again to Hule for sponsoring this video. And now, back to the video. And once you reach middle age as an anime, you might as well just roll some dice to see if you're gonna live or die. Because if you're not destined to end up as some wise old sage, then you are destined to end up as some young nigga's motivation and or rock bottom. And that's just simply the way the cookie crumbles in these sorts of shows. Now, credit where credit is due, right? As time has gone on and the genre has evolved in tandem with the scrutiny of its audience, the shows that dominate the shonen conversation have gotten a bit better with reeling in the adultisms and painting a more authentic picture of the teenage experience. These days, a lot of the awkwardness and lack of discipline and meat beating that comes with being a teen, it's all there, for better or worse. And I think what really made me come to appreciate the strides that shonen anime have made in this department was actually going back and watching some of the bullshit that they used to try to pass off as high school boys back in the day. Because what the actual fuck is this shit, bro? We all know about the anime delinquent trope, right? The bad boys, the ne'er-do-wells, the kids around the block that can't seem to stop fighting, them young niggas, some of you TikTokians might say. Well, imagine if they made a school for these delinquents, a private school for these delinquents, where instead of learning a bunch of lame bullshit like math, science, and how to sound it out. Where instead of learning a bunch of lame bullshit like math, science, and how to riad, you instead learn how to quote unquote refine your manliness by doing shit that actually matters in life, like handstands and forward marches. This right here is the plot of Sakigake Otokojuku, a manga/anime from the mid to late 80s, which came out during the peak of Shonen Jump's big burly men era, Fist of the North Star and type shit. In Sakigake Otokojuku, we follow the story of the newly enrolled first year class at Otokojuku, this 300-year-old all-boys private school for dropouts, founded with the mission of refining these young boys into men that can lead the world. Now, on paper, that sounds good, right? This sounds like the mission statement of literally every all-boys high school ever. Trust me, I went to one. But you see, the thing about Otokojuku is that their methods in achieving this goal that they set for themselves are a bit, let's just say a bit odd. You want to teach men how to appreciate the value of food? Fuck it, feed them little niggas lizard tail with a side of acorns and water soup. That ought to set them straight. And don't forget to have a literal dog eating T-bone steak in front of them while you feed them that bullshit. You want to teach young men the value of discipline? Fuck it, make them sit crisscross applesauce in a vat of boiling oil that'll be set ablaze if they move too much. That's legal, right? You want to punish a young man for breaking one of the school's countless rules? Fuck it, send them to the school's prison, which of course they have, and make them hold up a 1-ton slab of concrete for the duration of the night. That ought to teach him not to, check my notes here real quick. That ought to teach him not to steal food. Okay, so back to the whole value of food shit, I see. As we work our way through the narrative of Sakigake Otokojuku, we do so through the lens of main character Tsurugi Momotaro, a dropout who enrolled at this academy because doing so seemed fun. Or rather, because doing so seemed not boring. I think there is a distinction to be made there, because why as a man are you trying to pursue joy and whimsy? Momo, who very quickly works his way up to being the leader of the first years, is less of an actual character with a personality, likes, dislikes, flaws, and you know, all that stuff, and more of a fantastical vessel of coolness in which you can expect some fresh new cool shit to arise from in every episode. Just starting off with the character design, and this honestly extends beyond just Momo, but dog, do you really expect me to believe that this big strong body ass nigga is a 14-year-old high school first year? Like, let's be so for real right now, bro. Bro's body is built like reps till failure. This nigga's eyebrows are so thick that they intersect with this headband, and the sad part of it all is that it's not even just him with the testosterone fueled design. Literally every 14, 15, 16-year-old boy in this school looks like they got 25 years worth of mortgage payments ahead of them. Like, they didn't even try to make these character designs seem remotely youthful, and even though it is kind of funny in its own way, kind of self-deprecating and facetious, I'm not gonna lie, it's still dumb as fuck. Like I said earlier, not much is to be expected from Momotaro by way of captivating character interactions or nuance or, you know, all that pansy shit, womp womp. But what you can expect from my dog is some cool ass man shit, like swordplay and midday naps and staring at the screen. He does a whole lot of staring at the screen, and like back in the day, characters didn't really do as much inner monologuing as they do these days. They kind of just freeze framed, and so Momo will just stare at the screen while leaving us as the audience to take our best guess in figuring out what exactly he's thinking about. And although I get having a mysterious character, I ain't never seen a nigga so mysterious in my life that even the omniscient audience isn't allowed to be tapped into what he's thinking. Like, is dude's thoughts just too cool for my brain to process, or like what's going on here? Why is it just dead silence?
なんだか知らねえがやってやろうじゃねえか。面白そうだ。
Perhaps the only soul within these school walls who could surpass Momotaro in a contest of sheer testosterone is none other than the principal of this fine institution himself, 𝙏𝙖𝙡𝙠. I really don't know where to start with this man. I feel like to even remotely scratch the surface of what this man is, I'd have to make a dedicated video going through all his different feats and accomplishments in exhaustive detail, but to at least set the tone for and give y'all an idea in regards to the type of character that we're dealing with, I want to read y'all a little excerpt from the abilities and powers section of his wiki page. Alright, pay attention. This will probably be on Friday's quiz. Powers and abilities. His is strong enough to support his body weight, and his ejaculations are powerful enough to blast a woman across the room. And I think this is a good stopping point. Throughout most of the series, Big Unk over here repeats one phrase and one phrase only. I am the principal of Otokojuku, 𝙏𝙖𝙡𝙠. Every morning he goes up in front of his student body to give an inspirational speech. Except all he does is say this phrase and leave. If you ask him a question, this phrase will probably be your answer. If you greet him, he will most likely return your greeting with this phrase. There's a scene in one of the episodes where Heihachi is on the phone with his op, and he proceeds to say this phrase with so much bass in his voice, so much testosterone, that the vocal masculinity is transmitted through the telephone wires and causes his op's phone to explode in his face. I can only imagine that Heihachi yells this phrase out before he blasts women across the room. That's low-key insane, but hey, who am I to judge? I best keep my mouth shut before he spins on me with that nuke that he invented in World War II, the one that can blow up half the United States. Speaking of the United States, this show seems to have a very interesting love-hate relationship with the old red, white, and blue. On one end, some of these episodes kind of venerate or maybe fetishize the men of the United States. I mean, big 7-foot tall black dude in a USA shirt was kind of crazy, but I'm not even gonna hold you. In the grand scheme of this anime shit, this character design really isn't all that bad, especially for its time period, and it really makes you wonder what some of these manga were cooking with those fish flips like 10-15 years after this series came out. Of course, he gets beat the fuck up by an untrained high schooler despite being a world heavyweight championship boxer, but anime type shit. A few episodes later, the Americans make another appearance, this time parachuting into Japan with their own roster of roided out 9th graders in an attempt to see which country's balls hang lower to the ground. The Americans want to settle their feud with a series of boxing matches. The Otokojuku boys comply, but under the direction of the principal, the two factions end up competing in a special, extra manly type of boxing where instead of wearing leather gloves, you wear big metal spike ball gloves. My nigga, what? Of course, the Otokojuku boys end up taking home the victory against their canonically Olympian opponents despite being mostly untrained and literally cheating at one point. You can't kick people in boxing, but I don't know, I just find it funny how much some of these episodes read as this pro-Japanese fanfic where the stoic but mighty Japanese underdogs stand up to and eventually succeed in defeating the big bad foreign American men who have come to Japan to steal their women. Japan in the 80s, ladies and gentlemen. Despite having basically evaporated from the modern day anime consciousness, Sakigake Otokojuku did seem to be pretty popular back in the day, at least among its core Japanese audience. In 1989, the manga was second only to Dragon Ball in terms of popularity on Jump's roster, and remnants of this series' success can still be found to this day in some of Otokojuku's spin-off works, including the animated movie, the live-action movie, the web show, which they seem to have scrubbed from the internet for some reason, the PS2 game, and my personal favorite, Otokojuku, the 2015 spin-off manga where 𝙏𝙖𝙡𝙠 has to start an all-girls school after Japan gets hit with a man bomb that evaporates all of its country's manliness. Watching Sakigake Otokojuku is an experience to say the least, but all things considered, the series does stir a sort of curiosity in me, and it does compel me to look a bit more critically at the shows that are coming out today. Just because a series is popping now doesn't mean it's going to be popping forever. I'd like to think that with the advent of internet culture, media will be less prone to quote-unquote expiring in the way that Otokojuku has, but truth be told, there's really no way to know how a series will be received 20 plus years after its prime, and I low-key feel like all the internet antics of the modern era may actually end up detracting from these shows' reception in the long run. I don't know, bruh. The internet's weird, anime's weird, you're weird, I'm weird. Sakigake Otokojuku is very weird, and shit, there ain't really much else to say now, is there?